Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Realm of Ori. In this video we will continue, the Volume 12, The Eve of War arc. Chapter 1 The Staccato of Marching Jackboots Part 7. If you haven't watched the previous video or chapter, you can find the link in the description below. And before we will start, this video contains spoilers ahead from the anime and manga series. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can stop watching the video. And if you will continue, additional disclaimer notice. Please don't forget subscribe to my channel and click on bell icon to get notification for upcoming videos. Let's get continue. It felt like we skipped over a couple steps I had otherwise expected, but if he was fine with it, then I had no qualms about managing the Western nations from now on. In that case, I'll accept the offer. By the way, do you mind ending your assaults on the northern regions of Ingratia? I'd heard from several sources that Guy's subordinates regularly ravaged those lands. That area had been under the protection of Rizul until he met his demise at Xian's determined hands. Since it was an emergency at the time, Sarian's emperor, Elmesia, dispatched the Magus to subdue them. It would be out of character to thank her for it, but it was also a little too convenient for me to ask her a favor like that again. As long as I was in charge of the Western nations, I'd have to shoulder the burden of defending them, which entailed hefty defense expenditures. I'd really like to avoid that, and fighters of Rizul's caliber were few and far between to begin with. Please be at ease. Those chores can all be left to Testarossa, Diablo reassured me with a smirk, as if he had solved all my worries. Yeah, that's right, Guy interjected before I could even ask if that was okay. Those guys would need a place to unwind from time to time, so just leave them to their own devices. Even Guy agreed with what Diablo suggested. In that moment, I knew that a normie like me would never understand what went through a demon's head. As Diablo had recommended, I decided to hand the demons off to Testarossa. And because I took Guy at his word, I judged there wouldn't be any disagreements about it. This was how I cemented my hegemony over the West, but it wasn't over just yet. Alright, Rimiru, can I leave the matter regarding the Eastern Empire to you then? Prompted by Rumina's question, I suddenly remembered that little problem again. When you say the Empire is making a move, do you mean they're taking military action? I ventured to confirm it for myself, and Guy nodded as if it were obvious. I've heard the Empire has been conducting a number of military exercises recently, Hinata added. There's been a lot of talk about it at the council as well. The fact that she was aware of the situation suggested that she probably had a plan in mind. Since I'd taken control of the council, it was inconceivable for there to be an insider. But if there were one, they might have developed some new technology or devised some outlandish tactics. Or perhaps they possessed some kind of trump card. Hinata, I know. You're wondering about the structure of the Dwarven Kingdom that you requested me to evaluate before, right? From what I've gathered, it's not impossible to get a large army through. Hinata instantly read my intentions and gave me the information I wanted. The Dwarven Kingdom was neutral, and I doubted that Gazel would permit it, but it was the safest route to use to invade the West. No, perhaps, I wasn't sure it would happen, so I had dismissed the thought. But there really is a chance that they'll attack the Dwarven Kingdom first, huh? Don't try to hide it. I know your request for me to investigate that route was based on that very suspicion. Was I exposed? Well, since that's a possibility, we need to deal with it first. I should contact Gazel and conjure up a plan together. The fact that we had delegated military authority of the council to Tempest was already becoming more trouble than it was worth. Nonetheless, it was now our inescapable responsibility to bear the brunt of the Empire. If you weren't here, Granbel and Ruminas would have had to fight the Empire, Guy informed me, his voice indifferent like it wasn't his problem. The Empire's military power was unknown. The Rosso family's combined strength, the Holy Knight Order, and Lubelius's forces, led by Hinata, would have been the ones entrusted to counter the Empire's advance. Guy didn't seem too concerned with which side would win, but even then, he had accepted Yuki's offer. He must have had his own reasons for that. The key thing to find out was what he meant by the word game, but I didn't think he would give me a satisfactory answer even if I asked. I'll help as well, but I won't be under your command, okay? There was no reason for Hinata to be on the front line, so she had a pretty good point. I still don't understand why they want to initiate war, but we won't be sitting on our hands, that's for sure. Hinata, I want you to be ready in case the Empire invades in a very unconventional way. Understood. We'll take care of the agent who disguised himself as a merchant, too. Hinata reassured me with a somewhat strained smile. That was a relief. There was nothing more for me to add. Rimiru, if you are defeated, then I will have to fight. Work hard and make sure that does not happen, Ruminez commanded, as if my failure would be a major annoyance. Ruminez couldn't afford to worry about a war right now. She had to assess the human casualties surrounding the collapsed Grand Cathedral, as well as its reconstruction efforts, back in her own nation. Honestly, I was grateful to have gotten Hinata's cooperation, given everything that was going on. What worries me is if we can even cooperate with Yuki. The potential prospect of working together made me feel quite emotionally conflicted. The Farmas Kingdom had been led around by the nose, and my companions, including Xian, were harmed, all because of Yuki. He was the one who controlled Clayman, and if we went further back, was also involved with the Orc Lord, the incident caused by the previous Geld. Even if you were told to let bygones be bygones, it was difficult to readily accept that sentiment. Rimuru-sama, are you worried because of us by any chance? I guess you could say that. With everything that we've endured, it's hard to just suddenly trust him. Or rather, having faith in him was out of the question. And when it came to war, there was nothing more dangerous than an untrustworthy ally. Even I don't know what that runaway Yuki has planned next. I'm not really interested either, I just hope he'll do his best in sabotaging the Empire, Guy revealed rather nonchalantly. I thought for a moment after I heard that. As I'd expected, the idea of including Yuki as a part of our military forces was a bit far-fetched. Kufufufufu. Let us ask Sue Dono to investigate his recent activity, suggested Diablo. Please do so. We would hold off on the matter of Yuki for now. But the question of whether or not we would find common ground was entirely up in the air. At the very least, there was no way we could work together without at least receiving a proper apology. Since we were also running a country, we might have had to consider reconciling with him depending on how he played his cards. Although, my heart definitely wasn't kind enough to disregard his actions without some form of compensation. Xian, will that be enough for you? Of course. If he remains hostile, I will crush him, and if he is willing to reconcile, then I will forgive him after just one punch. Please don't end him in that punch, I silently begged her in my mind. If that really wound up happening, then we just had to say it was an accident. Since neither Xian nor I had the intent to kill, we could insist that it wasn't on purpose. On that note, we decided to postpone the matter of Yuki. That was not the end of Guy's business with us, as he had one more thing to discuss. His real reason for coming was related to the hero, in other words, Chloe. I knew that Granbel's goal was to free what Ruminez had desperately tried to hide in that place. So, I've been watching over it to make sure it doesn't go off rampaging. But then Diablo told me to let Rimiru handle it. Just when did this exchange happen? Was what I'd initially thought. But then I remembered there was a short interval where Diablo momentarily stepped out while the battle was still raging on. That's probably when he made that unwanted negotiation. I sighed internally, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I didn't know how things would have turned out if Guy ultimately decided to join the battle at that point. We were just talking about that earlier, but this is good timing. We can go over it once more, and I'll explain it myself. Taking the lead here, I decided to elucidate everything. I didn't think Leon or Ruminez would say anything uncalled for, but better safe than sorry. It was probably a good idea to hide critical information, like Chloe casually leaping through time, or that she had gone through several loops already. I thought that if I never mentioned it in the first place, then there was no way for him to find out. And for that reason, we defeated the rampaging Chronoa and resolved the case. Although this wound up dumping all of the blame on Chronoa, it was done to protect Chloe. It would have only led to trouble if we explained that Chloe was Chronoa. I wanted to keep it a secret from Guy. I see, you went through a lot. Then, can I ask just one thing? Ask me anything. That girl over there, no matter how you look at it, is a hero. How are you going to explain that? I tried to cover up the story, but it was impossible with Guy. Next, I attempted to give a probable yet absurd explanation. This child's hidden power was awakened in that fight, don't lie. I knew it. Awakening to new powers in the middle of a fight was a classic development, but as expected, such an excuse didn't work. The truth is, I hesitated, wondering what to say. Leon spoke up and covered for me. The person I've been constantly searching for with specific summoning is this Chloe. By whatever whim of fate, she was there, but thanks to that, we were saved. I had absolutely no idea how Leon planned to continue the tale, but playing along appeared to be the only way to deceive Guy. That is correct. I was surprised too, but this girl, Chloe, was the perfect vessel to seal Chronoa. Before I could interject, Ruminez cut in and followed Leon's lead. The scale of this whole turn of events ended up getting even more complicated, but more importantly, was I supposed to be the person to continue after her? A sealing vessel, you say? That's what I want to ask, too. I thought to myself, but it was unthinkable to tell the truth now that the story had gone this far. I had no choice but to join in. Right. According to Leon, she possesses a special ability that allows her to steal the power of any opponent and seal it away. I was skeptical at first, but once I witnessed its effect with my own eyes, I had no choice but to believe it. How's this? I handed it off to Leon, signaling that the rest was up to him. Honestly, I ended up having my trump card taken from me, but it's better than allowing it to uncontrollably rampage around. Rimiru quickly joined in with a bitter expression, delivering it in an extremely convincing fashion. She's incredible as always, I quietly admired her. All that was left was for Leon to wrap it up. That's what happened. There are a lot of strong people in this world, including you, Guy. I sought to protect Chloe in case of a threat, but I didn't think that she would expend her power as soon as I met her. I really am unlucky. You guys aren't trying to trick me, are you? No, not at all. Being overly doubtful is a bad habit of yours. That's right. You shouldn't worry about such trivial things. We denied Guy's suspicion in perfect harmony. The reason why we were able to instantly cooperate was because the three of us all cared for Chloe. But you see, Guy mused, that girl definitely gained the power of a hero, right? Would it truly be okay to leave things as they are? Leon stood up in response to Guy's words, but Guy merely smirked and placated him by saying, relax, I won't touch her. Then that's fine. Just remember, if you ever think of pointing a blade at Chloe, then you'll have to go through me first. While that didn't exactly help the tense atmosphere, Guy never had any murderous intent. I was on guard because I'd thought that he might cause a problem, but he subverted my expectations with his cordial behavior. I felt relieved as a result, but in an instant, something happened that made my blood run cold. The bright glint of a moving blade. I had no clue where he brought it out from, but Guy had a longsword in his hand and was currently swinging down at Chloe's neck with it. My perceptual speed, which stretched things out 1,000,000 times more than normal, told me that I was already too late even if I moved immediately. Not only that, Leon and Rimiru faced the same dilemma. Everyone had an air of despair and tried to turn away from the horror that would transpire. But, in the next moment, a sharp and clear clang echoed. The small Chloe suddenly grew up and blocked Guy's attack. I didn't know when she had pulled a sword out, either. Her clothes had also changed to that of a hero. Chloe's usage of her Holy Spirit armor was fairly natural, and she seemed to have already mastered it. Hey guys, did you enjoy the video? For now, this is where the video ends. On my next upload, we will continue with the Chapter 1, The Staccato of Marching Jackboots final part. By the way guys, we have Discord server, Realm of Ori, where we can talk about Tensura topics and other stuff. So if you haven't joined yet, you can find the link in the description below. That's all for today and see you on my next video.